Ju-Hai-1 is a bitchless man who has never felt the touch of a woman in his life. The only comfort he had in this world were his parents, who also tragically died in a car accident on a Christmas evening. So now he spends every Christmas walking aimlessly, while other people spend time with their wives and children. This makes Ju-Hai-1 feel even more lonely as he can only look at people who avoid them because of his tall stature. As he is walking aimlessly, Ju-Hai-1 notices a man in a Santa costume begging down the street. He feels pity for the old man, so he decides to spare him some money instead of spending it on beers and junk food. The old man feels thankful to Ju-Hai-1 and asks him if he has any wishes in his life. Ju-Hai-1 suddenly finds the old man to be a bit creepy, so he tries to walk away, but the old man won't let him. Ju-Hai-1 can only give up as he lies about winning a lottery ticket. The old man catches his lie and tells him to be honest and say the true wish, hidden deep down his heart. This makes Ju-Hai-1 a bit emotional, as he realizes that the only thing he wants in life is a happy family, a beautiful wife, and a cute daughter. The old man promises Ju-Hai-1 that his wish will definitely come true, and if he can't make it happen, he will cease to be a Santa. Ju-Hai-1 takes the old man to be a Santa fanatic, so he just leaves him alone and decides to head back to his crampy old apartment. He takes a late-night train, where all the other people around him are just couples. Ju-Hai-1 doesn't want to look at them anymore, so he just closes his eyes and falls asleep. This is the last time he sleeps on Earth, as the next moment he opens up his eyes, he finds himself in a carriage locked up in a cage with a few other people. All of the people are in rather rough conditions and look as if they haven't eaten in days. Ju-Hai-1 seems to be in better condition, but he doesn't have any clothes on and feels a bit cold. He starts to look around and hear the soldiers driving the carriage speaking a foreign language, which he has no clue of. Aside from that, he also notices that all the people in the cage are tied to heavy shackles, which indicates that this must be a slave caravan. Ju-Hai-1 finally realizes that he has been ice-skayed to a foreign world by that creepy Santa who even stole the job of truck-kun. Before reality can even set in, Ju-Hai-1 starts to shiver from the cold. Ju-Hai-1 is feeling a bit lost when suddenly, his eyes fall on a dead slave, who still has his clothes on. Even though Ju-Hai-1 feels terrible for stealing from a corpse, he has no other choice or he will just die from the cold. After Ju-Hai-1 dresses up, he sits down and starts thinking about the creepy Santa. He really wonders if being a slave would fulfill his dream to have a loving family or that Santa just wanted to mess with him. Either way, he hopes that this is just a dream, so that he can wake up and take a nice and warm bath. Just like this, a few days pass by and Ju-Hai-1 has assimilated quite well with other slaves. His cheeks have now sunk in and his appearance looks more disheveled. Ju-Hai-1 is dying of hunger and wants this to end as soon as possible. Just then, the carriage stops at a village, where the soldiers start to line up all the slaves to be auctioned off to the villagers. Ju-Hai-1 finally sees a glimmer of hope. Even though being sold as a slave is bad news, but he will at least be fed once a day as per the rules. Ju-Hai-1 is also confident in his looks and tall stature, and is sure that he will be sold to the richest man. However, the reality is far from his imagination, as no one even looks in his direction. This goes on for the rest of the journey, where every time the carriage stops at a village, all the other slaves are sold one by one except him. This makes Ju-Hai-1 lose all hope and he starts to give up on life. He curses the creepy Santa, who lied to him about giving him a life of happiness and brought him to this shithole of a place. Unable to bear the suffering, Ju-Hai-1 decides to end it all by plunging a nearby fork into his neck. Just then an angel appears in front of his face and gives him a helping hand. Ju-Hai-1 stops as he is blinded by the beauty of the woman in front of him, in whose hand is a piece of bread which looks more delicious than anything he has ever eaten at a 3-Michelin-star restaurant. The woman tries to speak to him, but Ju-Hai-1 can't understand her words, not because he can't speak their language, but because he is also distracted by the woman's beauty and her cute daughter besides her. Previously, in a shabby run-down room, the beautiful woman, Liz, and her daughter are having dinner together. The portions are quite small. Liz is worried that her daughter might not be full, so she also gives her own portion to her. The young girl is happy, but she doesn't want her mother to go hungry, so she divides half of it for herself and gives the other half back to Liz. Liz is about to thank her when suddenly someone starts loudly banging on the door. Liz answers the door, to which the village chief tells her to not open the door and just listen to his words. He tells Liz that the soldiers have brought a bunch of slaves and they will be buying one of them to be her husband. So he urges her to get ready as she will be moving back to the mountain with him. Before leaving, the village chief also reminds her to have some food ready for the soldiers as they will be arriving by daybreak. This announcement comes as a shock for Liz, as her previous marriage was a nightmare for her. She was beaten up every day and had to endure a lot. Liz doesn't want to suffer once again, so she thinks of running away. But then she remembers the young girl, who is the daughter left behind by her previous husband from his previous marriage. She has just met her some time ago, so she doesn't want to leave her all alone. The young girl senses her mother's emotions, so she hugs her and tries to comfort her with her small arms. Lin stops crying after seeing this and puts the young girl to bed, who doesn't even have a name yet. That's why she is afraid that if she were to marry again, they both might have to go through another nightmare. That nightmare started a while back when she was sold by her father for a mere rabbit skin. A man on the village mountain bought her, and before she could even unpack her stuff the man arrived and started to beat her up for being late. Life didn't get any better afterwards, as she was continuously abused and tortured. Limbs would have long since broken if not for the young girl who came out of the darkness and became an angel in this hell. One day after beating up Liz, the man left for the forest to hunt animals and never returned. Liz later learned from the village chief that he was killed by an animal and his body was never found. Liz was thrilled to hear this news, but then the reality sank in. In these backward times, a woman without a husband was useless and couldn't even do anything on her own. That's why Lin decided to face her nightmare, as she couldn't give up on her daughter after all. One morning, Liz gets ready and even bakes a few pieces of bread. She takes the food and heads outside where the carriages are parked. There her eyes fall onto a man who is trying to unalive himself by putting a fork through his neck. This reminds Liz of her own traumatic experiences with her previous husband and how she also once contemplated on unaliving herself using a fork. But in the end she couldn't do it, so Liz doesn't hesitate to run towards the man and stops him from unaliving himself as well. She then looks at his sunken cheeks and disheveled hair and offers a piece of bread to him. But before Liz can say something to him, the village chief arrives and tells her to go back to her hut and that he will handle the purchase of the slaves. Liz and the young girl take one last look at the man and then leave. The man is none other than Ju Hai-won, and he can't believe that someone just offered him a piece of bread when he was literally about to unalive himself. Ju Hai-won forgets everything else as his mind is solely focused on the food, but before he can even take a bite of it, the soldiers kick him out of the cell and present him in front of the village chief. Ju Hai-won and two other slaves kneel on the ground as the soldiers surround them. Just then, a soldier grabs a knife and cuts into their arms to make them bleed. He then smears their blood over two pieces of paper which start glowing in dim blue light. Ju Hai-won is shocked to see this, as he wonders if this is some sort of magic. This makes him even more curious about this world where slavery is still legal and people can even use magic. After the contracts are signed, a soldier mumbles something into the village chief's ears, who nods in response before walking towards Ju Hai-won to check on his condition. Meanwhile, the mother and daughter duo arrive back at the hut where a woman from the village gives them supplies for a few days and tells Liz that her new husband doesn't know their language, so she might have a bit of problem communicating with him. The woman notices that Liz is still traumatized, so she informs her that her new husband might be a commoner, but his hands are as soft as the nobles. She also assures her that no one liked her previous husband and they only tolerated him because he was a mountain keeper. So she tells Liz that if her new husband is also good at this job, they might just be able to live comfortably for the rest of their lives. Linz tells her that she doesn't need her husband to be good or anything, as she just hopes that he won't be a violent man. Just then, the village chief opens the door and brings Liz's new husband inside the hut. Liz is surprised to see that it's the same man who was about to unalive himself a few moments ago. Upon seeing him this close, Liz finally realizes how big he is, which makes her a bit scared. Ju Hai-won also notices that it's the same woman who offered him food but doesn't understand why she is shaking so much, before he can even learn what's going on. The village chief grabs his arm and brings him side by side to Liz and her daughter. She then forcefully locks their arms together, making them look like an awkward newly married couple. Ju Hai-won doesn't understand any of the stuff they are saying, but from the vibes and his current position, he can understand that he is being married off to the woman. This reminds him of the creepy Santa and realizes that he wasn't telling a lie when he said that he will give him a cute rabbit-looking wife and an adorable mongoose daughter. Ju Hai-won feels happy to finally live his dream, but he also can't help but get angry at the creepy Santa for making him go through all of the trouble. Ju Hai-won promises to himself that if he meets that Santa ever again, he will make him go through things even worse. Ju Hai-won's angry expression scares Liz and the young girl, who are already traumatized from their previous experiences. Meanwhile, the village chief is glad to see Ju Hai-won full of energy, as the mountain keeper job is tough and only a strong person can do it. That's why he decides to test Ju Hai-won whether he is capable enough of being a mountain keeper or not. So he sends a villager in front of Ju Hai-won, who tries to test his strength through handshake. Even though Ju Hai-won doesn't understand their language, he can feel their intentions, so he makes sure to put his whole strength in it. The villager instantly regret the challenge, as Ju Hai-won almost broke his hand and he didn't even look like he was trying either. The village chief is satisfied and decides to move on to the next step, which is to test his hunting skills. The chief hands a bow over to Ju Hai-won and asks him to shoot a wild rabbit. Ju Hai-won has never held a bow in his life and has only seen the people at Olympics use it. He tries to mimic their form and shoots an arrow which barely misses the rabbit. The village chief is still satisfied with his bow shooting skills and claps for him. Ju Hai-won is still unsure what is going on when suddenly Liz and the young girl walk up to him with a basket in her hand. Ju Hai-won finds her to be extremely beautiful and can't believe that she is his bride now. This makes Ju Hai-won blush, which makes the village chief realize that this guy has never been around in his life. So he decides to leave them alone so they can get used to each other as soon as possible. With no other person besides them, Liz becomes even more anxious as she doesn't know how to deal with her new husband. She knows that she still has to perform her duties as a wife, so she spreads a cloth for them on the ground and takes out the food from the basket to serve him. She also serves a portion to the young girl and takes some for herself as well. Things are quite awkward as they eat around each other, but Ju Hai-won doesn't know how to fix that as well. He can't speak their language, so he can't even introduce himself. This makes him curse out at that creepy Santa even more, who dropped him in a random place like this, but he is still happy as he would have never had a family like this without Santa's help. After they finish their meal, the village chief returns to take them to their mountain cabin. The path to the mountain is long and steep, which tires a pair of malnourished mother and child. Ju Hai-won notices that they are both struggling, and decides to help them as he is the man of the family after all. He approaches Liz, who instantly becomes scared, wondering what he is trying to do. Ju Hai-won is a gentleman who would never touch a woman without her consent, but now that he can't speak the language nor he has the time to explain, so he just picks both of them up and starts walking to the top. As he is walking, he realizes how malnourished they must be to be this lightweight. This makes him even more motivated to learn the language so that he can communicate with them better and have them eat good food to grow big and healthy. Even though Liz doesn't know what he is thinking, she can feel the determination on his face. This softens her guard against him as she even starts brushing off the sweat from his face. Soon they all arrive at the top of the mountaintop, where Ju Hai-won thanks the village chief for showing them the way. After the village chief leaves, Ju Hai-won turns to the mountain cabin where he will be living from now. The shabby cabin is in terrible condition, which makes Ju Hai-won shiver as he realizes that he might need to sleep in the cold again. While cursing the cold, he enters the cabin and finds Liz standing inside, devastated with tears in her eyes. He wants to ask her what happened, but Liz runs past him, leaving him standing there all alone. After running away for some time, Liz stops by a lake where she reveals the reason why she ran away earlier. As it turns out, someone has broken into the cabin and had stolen everything, whether it be crockery, table, bow, hammer, knife, and even their farming hoe. With everything gone, she can't even fix the broken cabin, which means they would have to sleep in the cold, completely defenseless to wild beasts. As Liz is feeling hopeless about the future, Ju Hai-won appears and is happy to finally find her. He notices that Liz has been crying all this time, so he sits beside her and puts his hand on top of her head to console her. Even though Liz can't understand his words, she can sense that he is trying to console her. This makes Liz happy, but she still feels helpless as she doesn't know how they will survive in this harsh place. Their cabin is all broken down, and her new husband doesn't look like someone who has ever done manual labor in his life. But that's something she can even do herself, but the real problem is the lack of food. As for that, they need to hunt, but Ju Hai-won doesn't look like someone who knows how to handle a weapon. But even though her head is full of negative thoughts, her heart feels at peace. She feels relieved seeing Ju Hai-won and is assured that he will make everything right for them. These feelings overwhelm Liz and tears stream down her face. Ju Hai-won lets her bawl out for a while as he tells her that in his original world he lost his parents when he was still young. Even though the world felt hopeless, he still managed to push through, and he is glad that he did that because otherwise he wouldn't have met her. That's why he wants to make sure that she and her daughter are both protected and well provided for their entire life. Linz can't understand what he is saying, but she knows that he cares for her. This makes her completely let go of her guard as she hugs Ju Hai-won and lets out all of her stored-up emotions. But when the young girl sees her mother crying, she believes that Ju Hai-won must have bullied her like her previous father. So she tries to protect Liz and take her away from Ju Hai-won. But he pulls her in and gives her a hug as well. Ju Hai-won still doesn't know who the young girl's father is or why Liz gave him food. But he knows one thing, that they are his family now. So he promises to himself that he will become the best husband and best dad and give them the best life ever so they will never have to cry again. So after the family is done with trauma bonding, they return back to the cabin. There everyone sits in silence awkwardly as they don't know how to progress things after crying in front of each other. Ju Hai-won eventually decides to break the silence by introducing himself to them. If they can't understand Korean, he just pronounces his name slowly so they can understand what he is saying. Fortunately, Liz and the little girl are both clever and they immediately get his name right. He then points at them to tell him their names as well. Liz goes first and introduces her name and how to pronounce it. Ju Hai-won praises her name and then turns to the little girl and asks her to introduce herself as well. The little girl remains silent as she was never named by her previous father. Liz also didn't name as their life was already too hectic after that man died. Ju Hai-won can't imagine someone not having a name, so he decides to name her instead. He thinks about a few names and eventually picks out Dorothy as it's the name from one of his favorite childhood stories, The Wizard of Oz. The little girl likes the name very much and thank you Ju Hai-won for giving her such a pretty name. Ju Hai-won also feels happy for her and hopes to give her the life of a princess just like how Dorothy had in the books. Later in the evening, Ju Hai-won is outside splitting logs that will be used for burning at the fireplace for the night. Lin stands a bit far away from him as she recounts all the things that have happened today. She silently mumbles his name, which sounds so elegant even though it's from a language that she has no idea of. This makes her curious who Ju Hai-won really is and where he comes from. Ever since she was born, no man has ever treated her right, whether it was her father or later her husband. That's why she can't understand why Ju Hai-won is so kind to her. While Liz is lost in her thoughts, Ju Hai-won notices her standing in the distance, so he waves at her and even shouts her name. This brings her out from her gloomy thoughts as she closely takes a look at Ju Hai-won for the first time. She notices that he has black hair and black eyes, which sounds similar to the legend that she heard recently. In that legend, it is mentioned that a faraway kingdom was at war, so they decided to summon a hero from another world, and that hero also has black hair and black eyes. But she quickly dismisses these thoughts as no hero would ever be in such a run-down village like this, moreover becoming someone's slave. As she is thinking about his identity, Ju Hai-won has already made his way towards her, and upon closely examining him, she realizes that his hair and eyes are more towards the brown shade, so he is just a normal bloke who is just a bit taller than most people. This puts her heart at ease, which also makes her a bit embarrassed as she doesn't understand why she would even feel something like this in the first place. Ju Hai-won is amused to see her have all sorts of mixed emotions and can't help but give her a nice pat on the head. Liz enjoys his touch and feels all warm on the inside. Her relaxed expression makes her look even more adorable, which attracts Ju Hai-won like a bee towards flowers as he gives her a light peck on her lips. The sudden kiss freezes Liz, who never expected Ju Hai-won to do something like this. Ju Hai-won is also baffled by his actions and decides to run away to avoid embarrassment. Ju Hai-won also feels mad at himself as he can't believe that he randomly kissed Liz even though they have only met for one day. As he is thinking about how to address this situation, he realizes that he has walked way too deep into the forest. He looks around to see any path leading back to the cabin when suddenly he feels a heavy pressure behind him. Ju Hai-won slowly turns back and finds a menacing wolf nearly his own size standing in front of him. Ju Hai-won is scared out of his wits. He struggles to choose whether to escape or stay there to fight the wolf. He grabs the stick on the ground firmly and prepares himself mentally for the battle. The wolf is also prepared to hunt its target, so it immediately lunges on Ju Hai-won, who only has a stick to defend himself. Ju Hai-won blocks the attack by putting the stick between himself and the wolf. The wolf's teeth are stuck in the stick, so Ju Hai-won uses this opportunity to land a solid punch on the wolf's face. This makes the wolf extremely furious, who bites down into the stick so hard that it breaks into 2 pieces. With its jaw freed, the wolf is able to use its deadly set of teeth once again. Ju-Hai-One also knows that defense isn't an option anymore, so he decides to strike the wolf first, but the wolf blocks his punch by biting down into his arm, which leaves a gaping wound onto his wrist. Ju-Hai-One flinches back due to the pain, which feels as if his whole arm is on fire, but when he looks on his arm he finds literal flames coming out from his flesh. Ju-Hai-One is shocked and wonders if these flames are made of magic. This makes him more confident in his battle against the wolf, who also seems to be scared of the magic flames. The wolf tries to back away, but Ju-Hai-One doesn't give him any opportunity and starts to beat down the wolf with his flaming fist. Punch after punch, the wolf continues to howl, but Ju-Hai-One doesn't show any mercy and continues to beat it down till it's completely silent. After the wolf is taken care of, Ju-Hai-One falls onto the ground and tries to recover his stamina. While he is catching some breath, he looks at his arm, which was literally on fire a few moments ago. He tries to find any marks of injuries or burns, but can't find them anywhere, which makes him wonder if he was really able to use magic without any guidance. This reminds him of those novels that he used to read in his free time, so he tries to recreate the magic by calling out various spells such as Fireball, Firestorm, Firewall, but none of them work. He even tries calling an incantation that he read in the novels, but even that doesn't work. Ju-Hai-One gives up as he realizes that there must be a trick behind using magic at his command, but he is 100% sure that he definitely possesses magic because his arm that was supposed to have a gaping wound is now completely healed. Ju-Hai-One wants to learn to control his magic as soon as possible, as this will not only make him a more capable hunter, but he will also be able to heal his family, especially since there is no doctor on this mountain. Ju-Hai-One clenches his fists as he promises himself to quickly get better and stronger so that he can protect his family and provide them with a much better life. He doesn't want to be called a curse anymore, someone who brings death to everywhere he goes. He still remembers that after the death of his parents, his grandfather took him in as his close relatives weren't willing to take him in. But right after taking him in, his grandfather also died very soon, which caused all of his cousins to beat him up for being an evil creature who is plagued by a curse which kills everyone who takes care of him. Ju-Hai-One throws these painful memories at the back of his head as he has more important work to do. He quickly wants to take care of the wolf as its blood might attract other predators, so he picks up the wolf on his shoulders and takes it back to the mountain cabin to process it and turn it into meat for his family. Back at home, Liz and Dorothy are preparing for dinner when suddenly they notice a wolf head glaring into the window. Dorothy starts to cry as the predator is far too scary for her. Liz hears her cries and immediately grabs a knife to protect Dorothy from the danger. Liz scaredly looks out of the window and is relieved to find that it's only Ju-Hai-One who is carrying a wolf on his shoulders. But then she notices the injuries on his face and rushes outside to check on his condition. It doesn't take much for her to realize that Ju-Hai-One must have faced a great danger, or otherwise he wouldn't have been this badly injured. Ju-Hai-One tries to calm her down as he explains that it was just a few minor scratches and that everything is fine now. Liz can't understand his words, but she can sense that he's trying to tell her that he's fine now. She quickly pulls him into a hug, which surprises Ju-Hai-One, who didn't think Liz would take such an initiative. Dorothy also hugs his knees as she tries to tell him that she was so worried for him. Despite their inability to speak each other's language, Ju-Hai-One can tell that they were extremely worried for him. This also makes him sad as he promised to himself that he won't make them cry, but it hasn't even been a day and he already broke his promise. The following morning, after everyone calmed down, Ju-Hai-One starts to process the wolf by skinning its hide and separating the meat from its bones. Ju-Hai-One used to watch his grandfather, who was fond of reining animals and often butchered some by himself for special occasions. So even though he knows the basic techniques, he realizes that butchering is far harder than his grandfather made it look in front of him. But even though it's hard, he still has to do it for his family. So he is about to get back to work when suddenly, Liz enters the barn and gives him a basket to put all the meat inside of it. Ju-Hai-One is happy to receive her help and wants to thank her. But his pronunciation of the language is very awkward, so Liz helps him pronounce it correctly. Liz feels very happy as no one has ever thanked her before in her life. This also makes Liz realize that she had so many first-time moments with jujitsu, whether it be her first thank you and previously even her first kiss. But this also makes her wonder whether it was also Jujitsu Men's first kiss or had he kissed another woman before in his life. As a woman, she can't help but feel jealous of whoever had Jujitsu Men's first kiss. This makes her a bit sad and her heart can't help but wander into wrong directions. But she forces herself to come back to reality as she still has to help Jujitsu Men in putting all the meat into the bucket. But Jujitsu Men doesn't let her do any of the dirty work, which makes Liz even more confused, as this is supposed to be a woman's job, and yet Jujitsu Men is doing it as it's natural for him. Just then, Jujitsu Men walks over to her and leans closer to her face. This makes Liz's heart race in excitement as she wonders if he is going to kiss her on the lips once again. Liz instinctively closes her eyes, but Jujitsu Men only kisses on the forehead, which makes her look all stupid for expecting a mature kiss. Jujitsu Men notices this small detail, so he leans forward once again. But this time, Liz forces herself to keep her eyes open as she doesn't want to fall for the previous trick once again. However, Jujitsu never intended to trick her this time, so he goes straight for her lips, which shocks Liz, who didn't expect him to kiss her out of nowhere. Liz is already embarrassed enough, but then her eyes fall onto Dorothy and wonders if she saw them. Unable to contain her embarrassment, Liz runs away from the barn like a Looney Tune character. Now that Liz isn't there to help him, Dorothy feels the need to help Jujitsu Men. Even though her tiny hands aren't that big of a help, Jujitsu Men still thanks her, which makes the little girl very happy. Jujitsu Men takes the meat bucket and enters the main cabin, which smells awful because of the rotting smell. Jujitsu Men doesn't understand why Liz is drying the hide inside their living space, but when he sees her cresting the skin, he realizes that the skin must be extremely precious to her. This makes Jujitsu Men feel very naive, as there is a lot that he doesn't understand about this world. In his previous life, the things which were considered normal are extremely precious in this world. So therefore, he not only needs to change his mentality but also learn more about the trade and how money works here, as without the basic finance knowledge it is bound for him to later or sooner be scammed by cunning people. So while Liz is busy curing the meat, Jujitsu Men decides to head back into the woods to do some extra work. Liz tries to stop him as she is worried that he might get injured once again, but Jujitsu Men assures her that he's only going to cut trees this time so he will be safe. Inside the woods, Jujitsu Men finds a small-sized tree and decides to use it for practice. Normally he would have loved to find an oak tree, as he heard that it's the best wood for a fireplace, but unfortunately he doesn't know how to differentiate between trees, so he can only focus on what's on his hand. Marking the place to cut, Jujitsu Men tightens his grip on the axe as he lunges it at the tree, but his grip is still too loose and the axe slips away from his hand. Jujitsu Men feels embarrassed as he looks around to see if anyone saw him. After a few hours, Jujitsu Men returns back with a sack full of wooden logs. Even though he promised Liz that he will not get himself injured, the axe is still a difficult tool to use, so he was injured quite a few times. Liz is worried and immediately runs over to tend to his wounds. Dorothy also wants to mimic Liz and help Jujitsu, but she scoops some water from the jar and tries to sprinkle it on Jujitsu to make him feel refreshed. Even though she makes quite a mess while trying to do so, Jujitsu Men still appreciates her feelings and pats her on the head. After Liz is tended to his wounds, all three of them sit down at the dinner table as Liz serves the wolf meat that Jujitsu Han hunted yesterday. The family is happy to eat meat after a long time, especially Dorothy, who eats so much that she instantly falls into a food coma. Jujitsu Men picks up the sleeping Dorothy and takes her to the bed so she can sleep peacefully without being too cold. In the meantime, Liz heats up some water for Jujitsu Men so that he can wash off all that dirt and grime from his body. In this world, which is still in its medieval times, the wife has to clean her husband by herself using a washcloth. Liz tries to wipe off Jujitsu Men, who seems to be enjoying this feeling of being taken care of, but Liz feels too embarrassed doing it as his chiseled muscles keep distracting her. Jujitsu Men can't help but feel a bit cheeky as he grabs her hand and leans forward for a kiss. The sudden kiss turns into an intimate moment, and both of the newlywed couples can't contain it anymore, and the rest is history. This was the first time Liz ever slept so peacefully. Before this, even when she was a child, every night was a traumatic experience. Her family was very poor, so they all shared the same room. This made it hard for her parents to share intimate moments, which frustrated her father, who would abuse her mother right in front of her and her siblings. Every morning they would wake up to their mother all bruised up and sobbing in silence. Every night Liz would worry about her future and wondered if one day she would be in the same shoes as her mother. But fortunately she met Jujitsu, a man who treated her like a queen and her daughter like a princess. Every morning she wakes up to the crackling of logs which burn every night to keep them warm. Every morning she hoped to wake up in the arms of the man who is so kind to her. Liz knows that the nights between couples aren't this sweet, so she cherishes every bit of this happiness that Jujitsu Men has made possible for her to experience. Later in the morning, while everyone is sleeping, Liz gets up from the bed and starts doing the usual house chores. Even though she is reluctant to leave Jujitsu Men's comfortable embrace, she still has to do her wifely duties, as this is the only way she can repay Jujitsu Men for taking care of them so much. Despite her traditional thinking, Jujitsu Men is still a man from modern age, so he also wakes up from bed and starts to help her in putting off the fire and doing other basic tasks. He also tries to converse with her using the little bit of language that he has been able to learn recently. This includes words such as honey, which makes Liz very embarrassed as she is still not used to being so loved. But this only makes Jujitsu Men tease her even more, as he loves to see her cherry-like face become even more red. While both the couple are flirting with each other, Dorothy also wakes up from sleep, not because she heard their voices, but because she wants to eat meat which she has been dreaming about all night. She is worried that if she wakes up in the morning, the meat might disappear. However, when she looks into the bucket and finds that all the meat is still there, she becomes relieved and excited for breakfast. Seeing the little girl be so happy to eat meat, Jujitsu Men becomes even more passionate about going into the forest to hunt even more animals. He doesn't care whether he faces wolves or lions, he just wants his family to always have meat to eat. That's why this time he even brings an axe with him, which will be a better weapon than a mere stick from the ground. Gripping the axe tightly, Jujitsu Men walks deep into the forest, where he senses a heavy presence which feels even more suffocating than the monstrous wolf he hunted the other day. This makes Jujitsu Men grip his axe even tightly as he waits for the beast to come out. But instead of a beast, there comes out a hooded man. Previously, the hooded man was roaming the forest as usual when he came across a patch of blood which seemed to be that of a large animal like a wolf. This surprised the old man, who is curious to know which group from the village came to the mountains to hunt the wolf. That's when he decided to stalk the mountain to find those people. But after a few days of stalking, he only found Jujitsu En, who had a huge build and strong muscles. At first the hooded man thought that it might have been Jujitsu En, but when he observed his activities, he realized that Jujitsu En can't even properly wield an axe. This increased his confusion, so he decided to confront Jujitsu Mei by himself today. But when he finally saw Jujitsu Mei up close, the old man noticed the wolf bite mark on his forearm. He could not believe that such a deep wound could heal this quickly. In fact, a normal villager might even die in a few days from infection, as there are no doctors here on the mountain. But now Jujitsu Mei stands in front of him without a speck of injury on his body. This can only mean one thing, that Jujitsu En is a mage and a powerful one on that. This realization brings joy to the old man, who had almost given up on his revenge. But now that he has found Jujitsu En, who is a talented magician, he knows that if he plays his cards carefully, he might finally be able to have his revenge. The hooded man might seem old now, but back in his youth, when he was still full of energy, he decided to become the mountain caretaker for a noble's territory. This job had a huge opportunity, as if there was ever a war, he would be called to participate in it as a soldier. And if he achieved great merit, the noble might grant him an official status, raising him from a mere commoner to an elite. That's how he arrived at this mountain, which had a peaceful village at the bottom full of resources. But there was only one problem. To gather firewood, the villagers had to go deep inside the forest. The forest is a scary place, and most villagers would never return back. So after he became a mountain keeper, the hooded man also had to gather wood by going deep into the dense woods of the forest. But one day he went too deep inside and was gravely injured, and even broke one of his legs. Since a mountain keeper needed all of their limbs, the hooded man's dream life was already over. He was already on the verge of despair when he stumbled into goblins, a species of monsters which kidnapped human women and made them bear their children. The hooded man was barely able to escape, but due to his injuries he was forced to retire and spent his whole life in the village. But there was not a single day in his 20 years of life that he didn't hate the goblins. That's why he continued to look for an opportunity to take his revenge on them until he finally met Jujitsu. Jujitsu, when brought hope into his life, he not only had a strong body, but his body also had strong regeneration. On top of this, the hooded man is also sure that Jujitsu when is a magician, so he decides to spend the rest of his time teaching Jujitsu on how to become the strongest hunter. In the latest time the hooded man has been observing Jujitsu when has also been watching him, staying cautious that he might do something out of nowhere. But when the old man suddenly tells him that he wants to take him as a student and teach him everything knows, Jujitsu is taken aback, as he doesn't know what he means by that. The following day, Jujitsu eats breakfast and gets ready to train. But this time he isn't alone, as he has the hooded man to teach him the skills to become a professional hunter. Even though Jujitsu when agreed to accept his help, he still doesn't trust the man as he seems too shady, just like his greedy manager back on Earth. So he decides to keep him out of his family's life and just let him wait outside. By the time Jujitsu when is ready to head out, Liz packs him a lunch as she knows he will be out for a long time. After packing his bag, Jujitsu when says his goodbye to both Liz and Dorothy as they also see him off. Even though this might be a normal routine for other people. But Jujitsu when still can't get used to it as he feels way too blessed to have such a beautiful and loving family. That's why he has to leave home and train to become even stronger. The hooded man doesn't know his motivation, but he is glad to see Jujitsu when motivated to learn nonetheless. He just wants to hide the fact about goblins from Jujitsu when till the contract is formed. Once the contract is formed, Jujitsu when won't be able to escape even if he is scared of goblins, and he takes Jujitsu when deep into the forest where he orders him to follow how he walks. Jujitsu when carefully watches the man who walks in a random pattern, leaving no single pattern to follow behind his lead. Jujitsu when tries to copy his steps as he wonders whether this is some sort of footwork that he read about in those Murray martial arts comics. The old man watches with a smile on his face as Jujitsu when awkwardly tries to copy his movements to replicate his footwork. After teaching Jujitsu when to leave a confusing trail, the hooded man goes on to teach him various other techniques to survive in a forest. He teaches him how to differentiate between different trees by touching them and gauging their appearances. He also tells him how to map the forest and how to get out of it if he is ever lost. He also teaches him how to use his ears and eyes to navigate the forest and on avoiding other wild animals and hunters. They continue to train till they arrive at a cliff where the old man gives him a small break to catch his breath and eat a quick snack to recharge himself. Jujitsu when is happy to finally be able to relax and enjoy Liz's lunch that she packed for him in the morning. The lunch contains a fried egg and a few pieces of steak, perfect for a tiring afternoon. But before he can even take a bite, the old man orders him to close the box as the unnatural scent of the food might alert other animals. This breaks Jujitsu when's heart, who really wanted to eat a lunch packed by his wife. But the rules are rules, so the old man asks him to get back on his feet once again as they have some more distance to cover. Soon they finally arrive at their destination, which is a small hut made up of woods on the mountain. This is the home of the old man, who brings a large bow out from the house and hands it over to Jujitsu when. Jujitsu when has never seen such a bow shape in his life, and wonders how the old man will even stretch back the string when the bow is so hard, but the old man proves him wrong by easily stretching the string and shoots an arrow at the tree which nearly cuts right through it. This shocks Jujitsu when, who didn't expect the old man to be this strong. The old man then orders Jujitsu when to take his bow and shoot just like he shot before. However, since Jujitsu when has never held such a bow before, he struggles to have a proper form of shooting the arrow. The old man remains patient and corrects Jujitsu when's every mistake by personally straightening his posture. With every mistake, Jujitsu when learns new things which help him improve his technique, and even though he has never participated in archery, he quickly starts to become good at it. While Jujitsu when is busy training with the hooded man, Dorothy wakes up from a nightmare about her childhood. She fears that Liz and Jujitsu might leave her in the future just like her previous mother and father did. After waking up, she immediately runs to find Liz but can't find her anywhere. This makes her fear come out once again as she is worried that they might have really left her, so she runs to check on the meat, but it's still there in the bucket. This calms her down, but she is still worried about Liz, so she starts looking around when suddenly she hears loud noises outside. Dorothy quietly looks outside from the window and finds Liz getting bullied by 3 men from the village. She recognizes the group as they also used to beat her real father, who then used to take his anger out on her and Liz. This makes her worried that they might beat up Liz as well. She wants to help her, but she is also too scared to do anything. Meanwhile, Liz tries to explain to the men outside that she hasn't stolen anything and that everything was hunted personally by her husband. But the 3 men don't accept her claim and call her an evil witch who caused the death of her previous husband, and now that they have wed her to a new one, she is trying to have him killed too by stealing other people's food. But no matter how much Liz tries to explain to them, they kick her away and break into the house to search for themselves. There they find the wolf skin, which excites them a lot as it can be sold for a lot. They also found a lot of cured meat in the bucket, which makes them wonder if that slave really hunted a whole wolf by himself. They are about to take away everything, but Liz stops them and tells them that she won't let them get away stealing her husband's prized possessions. This makes the three men even more angry as they badmouth her for staying silent when she had no husband. But now that she has a new one, she suddenly has gained the courage to speak against them. So without caring for her at all, one of the men punches her down and tells the other two to grab everything valuable and leave. Liz falls down and is about to stand up when she notices Dorothy hiding under the bed. Liz knows that if she continues to stay down, they might find Dorothy as well and hurt her too. She is struggling with what to do when suddenly the red-haired man asks the blonde man what would happen if the mountain keeper were to hear what happened to his wife. The blonde man also doesn't want to offend the mountain keeper, so he decides to shut her up for good and then burn down the cabin so no one will be able to guess what truly happened. The other two men smile after hearing this as they realize that they were worried for nothing, as the mountain keeper can't even understand their language, so there is no way he will ever get anything useful from his wife after he is done with her. Dorothy, who is hiding under the bed, can only watch the bad men take her mother away. After they leave, she quickly comes out and starts shouting Jujitsu Man's name, hoping that he will hear her and come back to save Liz. Back to Jujitsu Man, he has just finished his training and is about to return home when he hears someone's crying loudly in the distance. Jujitsu Man stops everything and runs towards his house as he is worried that something might have happened to Dorothy and Liz. As he is running back home, he stumbles into the three men who are forcefully taking Dorothy away with them. Jujitsu Man loses his mind after seeing this and lunges towards them like a mad animal. He first punches the red-haired man, who is instantly knocked out cold. He then turns to the fatty and delivers a knee to his face, which blows out his nose. Lunzura, the blonde man, is the fastest of them to react, so he tries to punch him from the side, but Jujitsu Man dodges the punch and throws the man onto the ground. He then throws a strong punch on his face and then stops as he realizes that he has been acting like a wild animal. But the blonde man doesn't appreciate the sympathy and he grabs a nearby scythe to attack Jujitsu Man while he is distracted. But Jujitsu Man acts timely and grabs his arm before the scythe can touch his neck. He is about to break his arm in two when the old man stops him and reminds him that his daughter is watching him and is scared out of her wits. Jujitsu Man becomes scared after hearing this. He wasn't even this scared when he saw the wolf. He turns to look at Liz, expecting her to be scared of him as well. His eyes, which were full of madness a few moments, now look as if he is about to cry. Liz can't lie to him that she wasn't scared at all, as watching him hit those men like a mad animal reminded her of her previous husband, who also used to her just like that. This scared Liz into thinking what she would do if Jujitsu Man also beat her like this one day. But when she looks into Jujitsu Man's eyes, what she sees is not rage but a deep concern for her and his family. This assures Liz that no matter what happens, Jujitsu Man would always protect them and that she was scared for no reason. That's why Liz grabs Jujitsu Man's hand and places it on her face, trying to feel his warmth. This is all Jujitsu Man's kindness, so she returns the same by thanking him for protecting her from the evils of the world. Jun Yuehwan hugs Liz, who also wraps her arms around him. While the couple are enjoying their romantic moment, their gaze falls on Dorothy and remembers that they completely forgot about their daughter, so they leave romance for a while and rushes to see Dorothy, who is shaken up by all the brutal violence. This reawakened her trauma of her deadbeat father, who used to beat her and her mother. That's why when Dorothy saw the three evil men beating Liz up, she became worried that they might also beat her up, which is why she was so scared to come out and help her. Dorothy doesn't want Liz to hate her and leave her behind, so she tries to apologize to her for hiding beneath the bed and not helping her. Liz is heartbroken after hearing her words and quickly takes Dorothy in her embrace. She hugs her tightly and assures her that she didn't do anything wrong. Liz also tells her that she is proud of her for being sharp-minded to quickly hide from the danger. Dorothy becomes relaxed after hearing her words, but she still seems to be a bit scared of Jun Yuehwan. Liz tries to calm her by reminding Dorothy that she doesn't need to fear anything, as her dad will protect her. Dorothy is confused as she reminds Liz that her dad died in the mountains, so how will he protect her? Liz can't help but laugh at her innocence, so she corrects her that she is talking about Jun Yuehwan, not her deadbeat abusive father. Dorothy doesn't understand how Jun Yuehwan can be her father, to which Liz replies that she is her stepmother, which makes Jun Yuehwan, who is her husband, a stepfather to Dorothy. Dorothy becomes excited after learning this, as she can't believe that Jun Yuehwan is her new father to her. Jun Yuehwan is the best man in the world, who is not only tall and strong, but he is also very kind. Dorothy could have never imagined that after losing her previous deadbeat father, she would gain a handsome father like Jun Yui, so she quickly runs out of her room and starts calling him daddy. Jun Yui doesn't understand what Dorothy is saying, but he can feel that it's somewhat closer to father, so he lets her bump into him as she hugs him tightly, not willing to let go. Jun Yuihuan is as happy as any girl dad can be, so he is about to pick her up. But he smells something a bit weird. It doesn't take him long to realize that Dorothy might have wet herself because of being scared, but he doesn't want to ruin this moment, so he picks her up anyway and lets her hug him as much as she wants. Liz also joins them as the whole family enjoys a moment of peace for a second, but then Dorothy's eyes fall onto the robbers and the bucket of meat that they stole. This makes her forget everything as she runs like a cheetah to go pound on the bucket. She quickly opens the lid to make sure that all the meat is safe, and after confirming it she becomes happy as a goose once again. Far away, Jun Yuihuan and Liz can't help but laugh at her antics as they realize that Dorothy's love for meat surpasses her love for everything, but this only further makes Jun Yuihuan even more motivated as he can't wait to hunt even more animals so Dorothy can eat meat every day no matter what. But before that he still needs to take care of the 3 robbers, so he asks Liz to take Dorothy inside as he walks towards the unconscious robbers all alone. But before he can do anything, the old hunter stops Jun Yui and advises him to not kill or further injure these 3 men. His words put up the raging fire in his heart, which makes Jun Yuihuan realize that further harming these men might get him arrested, or even worse, he might go back to being a slave once again. But he thanks the old man for his advice, who tells him to leave these 3 guys alone and instead take their tools for his own use. Jun Yui accepts his advice and takes back the tools back home, promising to the 3 men that if they ever dare to come across his path once again, he will leave them a fate worse than death. Later at night, after the whole commotion is calmed down, Jun Yuihuan tends to Liz's bruises as he tries to heal them by using his healing magic. Ever since the last time he fought against the wolf, he hasn't been able to replicate the success, so he isn't confident that it will work. However, the result surprises Jun Yuihuan as all the bruises on Liz's face completely disappear in a matter of seconds. To celebrate this success, Jun Yuihuan grabs Liz and takes her to the bedroom to enjoy the company of his beautiful wife throughout the whole night. In the morning, the villagers are as busy as ever as the days of the harvest festival seem to be getting closer. While all the villagers are working, the village chief's wife is cursing at her husband because he gave away all the fabric she has been collecting to Jun Yuihuan and his wife. The village chief tries to calm her down by reminding her that they desperately need a mountain guardian and there is no better person than Jun Yuihuan for that. But his wife is still resentful because she had saved that fabric for 10 whole years. The village chief assures her that the investment is worth it because Jun Yuihuan is a capable fighter and a hunter, so he asks his wife to make good connections with Liz because if Jun Yuihuan were to ever hunt rabbits, Liz might sell them rabbit pelt at a very cheap price. The village chief's wife becomes a bit relaxed after hearing these words and decides to trust her husband for once. After she leaves, the village chief's smile turns into a smirk as he didn't tell her the real reason why he gave so much fabric to Jun Yuihuan for free. The real reason is because he noticed a wolf bite mark on Jun Yuihuan's arm, which should have gravely injured him, but Jun Yui seemed to be completely fine, and the wound seemed to have healed perfectly as well. The village chief knows that only the healing magic can heal a person this quickly, so Jun Yuihuan must be a healing mage, as there is no other person who can cast healing magic in this whole county, much else this village. This awakens the greed inside the village chief's heart, who realizes that if he were to sell Jun Yuihuan to a wealthy noble, he might be finally able to escape this cursed village and live a happy life of luxuries in a big city. That's why he didn't even tell his wife about this, because he was worried that she might tell other villagers. As of right now, only he and the old hunter named Gus knows about Jun Yuihuan's healing magic. Back to the mountain, Jun Yui is still unaware of the schemes of both the village chief and the hunter Gus, as he is too busy appreciating the beauty of his rabbit-like wife. Ever after the village chief dropped by the house and gave them the fabric, Liz has been happy like a rabbit finding a carrot farm. Jun Yuihuan doesn't know what she will do with all of this fabric, so he decides to let her do her things and leave the house to go and train with the old man Gus. Jun Yui doesn't told him yesterday that they will be hunting rabbits today, which makes Jun Yuihuan feel a bit worried as he can't bring himself to hunt those cute creatures that remind me of his wife and daughter. That's why he hopes that the rabbits in this forest are hideous so that he won't feel anything when shooting them down. This is where the story ends for now, as Jun Yui is still unaware of the dangers lurking not only in the forest but also back at the village. How will he survive this predicament?